One thing we developed was intolerance for mediocrity. I think when you have no standards, you pretty much are saying that, hey, I'm open to anything.
We're not looking for, one and done, right? We're looking for domination. It's not the end of the small game, it's the start of the big game. What exactly did we do to get to where we are today? What does it take exactly to be number one? Good afternoon, ATG viewers. Welcome back to episode 2. We're going to start today with a brilliant news that we just got over the past few weeks. We are officially number one in the whole company. And guys, you guys know that we went through so much shit just to be where we are today, right? So my first question to you guys, what do you guys think it took for us to be at where we are right now?
I think just looking back on our journey right across the years, I think one thing has always been constant. We've always cut the day weight. Right? If you want to run a championship team, championship organization, or be a champion, you gotta have day weight on your team. Not your fitness trainer, not your nutritionist, not your coach, not your, kit man, or whoever it is that's part of your organization. Right? So I think that's what we did well. We cut all the day weight people who are not committed to being number one. And I think that helped us to get there. No one's a scrub on the championship team. I think that's important for us.
Yeah, I think to add on to what Reuben said, along the years, I think one thing we developed was an intolerance for mediocrity.
Yeah, fair.
Right. I think at the start, when we started this whole journey, right, we were, more accepting of, anyone who had a pair of eyes and a nose and a mouth, right? I think when you have no standards, right, you pretty much are saying that, hey, I'm open to anything, and I'm not looking for anything. I'm not looking to do anything special in particular. I'm just here to get by. And I think when you have a thinking and mindset like that, it doesn't really bring you anywhere for very long. But across the years, once we realized that there was much more we were capable of as a team, as a group, once we set standards in place and we kept heightening those standards, right, it became inevitable, that certain, ways of thinking, outlooks or mindset, right, were not aligned, right, with the mission we were trying to accomplish. So along the way, when you start to tolerate all these negativities, these bad habits, less and less and less, and you kind of, squeeze them out of the way, what you are left with, the people, the right mindsets that can actually bring you to the very top, right? And I would say that's one of the biggest contributors to success we've had in the longest time.
Yeah, I guess a summary is that, in the report card you get in school, right, we just cut everything from satisfactory to below out of the grading system. Because satisfactory is mediocrity, right? So as we remove all of that, what's left is above average and exceptional. So either you're above average or you're exceptional, right? That's how we get to the top one. And that's the only way that we can stay at the top. Or maybe we just cut out above average.
Yeah.
And just keep it exceptional.
I don't know about you, in the long run, when we went on stage to take that trophy together, right? I felt it was all the more special that everyone that was beside, in front, or behind me, right? I knew deep down that they were 100% committed with me in achieving what we achieved last year. There was absolutely no resent in anyone holding back. No one felt that they second-guessed each other. And I think that especially made that victory even sweeter than what it was.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's always more fun. More, I would say the euphoria is multiplied when you win together, right? As a group, as a team, right? And how many organizations or companies can say that everybody put their weight and beyond? I think that's very difficult to say, right? There's always one or two people who they're quiet quitting or doing the bare minimum for their wage or whatever it is, right? So I agree. I think the fact that we could stand there and I wasn't really being resentful to anyone. I think that's a good word, resentful towards anyone. I think that's a step in the correct direction. But if you ask me if that's success, I think it's more like the beginning, the first step of our journey, right? Because we're not looking for, one and done, right? We're looking for domination. So it's not the end of the small game, right? It's the start of the big game for us.
Yeah, it makes me...
Oh, sorry. You can go on first.
Which brings me to today's question, a question that a lot of our fellow friends and practitioners have been asking us, both on and offline. What exactly did we do to get to where we are today? What does it take exactly to be number one? And I'm sure this question has almost limitless answers and there's no boundaries to it. But I'd like to hear from you guys also. What do you all feel was the one or two things that really made a difference right at the beginning?
Well, I think like what you said, right, Leo, there are, I think, a limitless number of answers one could give, right, when faced with such a question. And I think firstly, I want to preface this by saying that I don't necessarily think we have really made it yet, right? You know, what we did so far, was it great? I think it was something we're all very proud of, right? But the difference between what has gotten us to where we are so far versus perhaps some of our other competitors out there is that we don't celebrate, I think, our victories or wins for too long, right? You know, I think it's good to acknowledge what we did. It's good to clap for ourselves, give ourselves a pat on the back. But after that, you know, it's always back to work again, right? I think you think of each day as starting from day one. Right? I think that day one mentality is what has helped us to come this far also, right? And there's no reason why it wouldn't get us further. So I think adding on to the question of what are the things, right, that have gotten us here so far, and I think out of everything that I can think of, and this is a personal opinion, right? I think the number one thing to me is environment, right? I'm not sure what you guys, you know, might think, but if you put a wild animal in a zoo, right, it becomes domesticated. After a while, right, you know, it's just thought to do party tricks and all that shit, you know. I'm not sure how they train them. But if you put the same animal in the wild, could be a lion, tiger, cheetah, whatever, that's where they're able to grow to their purest, you know, I think, hunter instincts. Where I think the same thing it is in any industry or any part of life as well, right? The people you surround yourself with, the things that you live and breathe every day, the lessons you take in, right, the practices that you do, these are all things that shape every little outcome and action of your life. Because of the environment we have built up over time, over the years, right, I think it has kind of shaped a certain way of thinking that, you know, doing well for yourself, going above what you are required, right, going above and beyond, these are all things that come as second nature. It's no longer just like, you know, this is something I want to strive to do. You don't think so much about it anymore. It just becomes part of your life, right? And through the environment we have shaped, right? And maybe, you know, Leo, you can describe what the environment we have a little bit later on, right? I think through what we have created, it has now brought forth a certain spirit within the team, right? Such where losing is never an option, right? And not just that, but winning is the only option.
But funny you should mention about environment also, because a lot of people talk about physical environment, but I think one thing that a lot of people like to think of is what is the mental environment that you have been put through as well that is able to bring you to that level of success that we have. So it begins with your own individual mental capacity, right? If you tell yourself that, okay, if you look at a problem and say, oh, how the heck am I going to approach this and everything, that's already one step behind. That you don't want to start the race a few steps behind, right? You want to start the race going fast, going strong, or maybe even a few laps ahead of your competitors. So your mental capacity to approach a problem has to be developed strong right from the start as well. So instead of saying like, okay, how to do, you should be thinking of already, okay, I'm confirmed or I'm already going to achieve this. I just need to break down into these few steps. But that puts you in that capacity that you are a winner and you are going to be able to accomplish this. And I think there's one very underrated thing that a lot of people have failed to achieve over the time.
But that's so hard to build, right? I mean, if you think about your day-to-day, not in a business context, right? But your day-to-day, let's say you want to be a winner in your life, right? But how many people can you surround yourself with who like also want the same thing? Like to win in life, or maybe in the same way, or have similar goals as you, right? So difficult. And when we build this environment together, I agree, right? With both of you, the environment, both the physical and the mental is super important, right? In getting us to where we want to go. But we didn't do it overnight as well, right? So we, of course, the first person has to be someone visionary, but someone that's unyielding, right? In the quest to becoming a champion. And then everyone after that has to sort of follow that and embody that similar mentality as well to uphold the environment, because the environment can be polluted just by a single drop, right? You know, a jug of very clean water, you put one spot inside and the whole thing goes black, right? So the thing is that we have to curate the environment so, I would say, so distilled. Yeah, so distilled carefully in a way that like nothing can stop us from doing the things that we want to do. But in that sense, right, we had to be ruthless. So I think for me, the word I will have to use is that there is some ruthlessness in becoming number one, right? Because
I watch football and I support Manchester United since I was a kid. I remember I was young, I turned on the TV and they won the treble, right? And then, of course, legendary manager, Alex Ferguson, and he was ruthless. Doesn't matter how good you are or how great a player you were or whatever, right? As long as you're not on board with his ideas or his plans or his instructions, right? And then you're out. Once you disrupt the environment that they have built over the years of excellence, right? You are out. Doesn't matter who you are. And I think that we sort of took that a bit and we put it into what we do for work, and that has worked wonders for us. And I think for most people, they can't be as ruthless, or they don't want to be, or they choose not to be, or maybe they are afraid, right? If I'm ruthless, and do I seem like I'm not empathetic, right? Am I not sensitive? Am I like not human, right? If I don't extend like concessions, give people second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth chances to turn over a new leaf or whatnot. But I think this kills growth, this kills progression most of the time, right? Because at the end of the day, some people can change, but most people can't, right? So you need to find the right people and then be ruthless with those who are not on board with your values, your systems, and what you intend to do in terms of your goals.
Yeah, it's like the whiskey we drink, right? If you imagine a fine glass of whiskey and someone pours a glass of Coke down, slap the person straight away.
I know a lot of people who do that, right? But yeah. I agree. That's why we drink no ice on.
Yes.
No ice, no mixer. Yeah.
I think it's interesting, right? So we talk about ruthlessness. One, I think, one opposite of ruthlessness could be compassion, lah.
Yeah, of course.
Right. And when people think about the word compassion, there's always a positive, I think, connotation to it. When people think about the word ruthless, it typically comes with a more negative connotation.
Yeah, fair.
Right. And I mean, I think for most people, it wouldn't seem out of place for it to be as such, right? And in the past, I think all of us, even including yourself, right? I think we were at some point filled with too much compassion.
Yeah, I think I've never regretted us being ruthless, but we have sometimes regretted because being compassionate.
When you are too understanding sometimes, right? When people give you excuses or reasons for why something cannot be done, and there's always a legit reason, right? Let's be real. It's always legitimate for why they can't do X, Y, Z. And if you eat up every single one like it's ice cream, right? I mean, at what point are you doing that person more harm than you are actually doing them good? Right, so in Chinese, there's this saying, right, 好心做坏事, right, which I think very, when you translate it to English, it just means if you have a good heart or if you are too nice, you end up doing the person harm instead. And I think that holds very true, right? If you are too understanding towards someone's plight, sometimes you're essentially giving them a pass and you're getting them used to this cycle of not being able to deliver and it being okay. They start to tell themselves, it starts to become like a self-perpetuating mechanism in their head that tells them that it's okay to suck.
You're empowering their victim mentality.
And it's not, we're not saying that, hey, you cannot fail, you have no room to not succeed. But deep down, you actually know it yourself. Like, you can lie to everybody in this world, but the one person you can never lie to is yourself, and we all know that, right? You know deep down if you actually did genuinely put in the work to try, or you either know that whatever you are saying is just a bunch of excuses. So I think in our quest to where we are so far, us being ruthless, I would actually label it as just ruthlessness. At some level, I might even say it's mercy, right?
Yeah,
mercy to release someone from, I think, for lack of a better word, prison, right? That they design themselves, right? That they trap themselves in, that like, hey, I tell myself that I can keep doing it, but for whatever reason, I can't because of certain circumstantial factors. And us telling them that, hey, perhaps it's time for you to go. I think at some level, that's actually kinder than if we were to keep telling them that, hey,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we did it in a bad way. Like, it's not like a bad breakup or a negative ending. It's more like we just knew what we wanted to do, as a group, and anything that technically was against that, then we couldn't accept that, lah. Right? I think it was more ruthlessness in that aspect, not like just because of the sake of fucking people over or whatever, lah. Right? So more in the quest towards the goals, we were more ruthless in that way.
Maybe for some context for our viewers as well, I think a notion a lot of people were familiar with is, you are ruthless externally, but compassionate internally. But along the way, we also learned that actually being ruthless internally and compassionate externally has its own merits as well. And that's also from the perspective that if you don't fight to protect yourself or don't fight to protect your own people or your organization, there's someone out there that's going to do it and it's going to take that success away from you. So if we are going to be compassionate externally, so it may create like a welcoming or enticing persona that our competitors can come and attack us. But little do they know that we are actually ruthless within. And then all the young cubs or young wolves, they're all ready to fight already. So come as they may, but they have absolutely no chance of even winning over us because we have already trained them to be able to fight the harsh battles.
I mean, in a sense, I've also met people, in who do the same thing we do, right, in the industry as well, who has said that like, I wish, I was in your team. Right? I'm sure you all have experienced that. I wish I was part of the team. I wish I had this when I was younger or whatever, right? And I mean, that made me think of two things, right? First is that, there are some people who are still like, part of the group, but maybe they don't really understand what it means to be in the team, right? They don't really appreciate, right, the environment that we have created and maybe sometimes the direction that we are going, right? And there are so many people out there who would love to be in their shoes, right? So in some sense, right, even in this, I would say, tough, competitive, ruthless, yet compassionate environment, right, they shouldn't take it for granted. Like, they're in a very advantageous position that in a way most people, 99.9% of people in the country would never get to experience, right? That's number one. Number two, when people tell me that, I'm just like, you say that, but are you sure? Like, if you're here in the group with us, like, you do even know what it means, right? People say, I want to be champion, or I want to be number one, or I want to be part of your team. I wish I was. But I look at them and thinking like, do you even know what it takes, what that entails? I don't think so. Like, it's easy to say, right? But you really need to go all out, to give up some things, to sacrifice, right? To go through the tough times. Some people say but I don't think they can, right? That's why it's always important to find the right people that we can build to this.
But how about you, Leo? What do you think? I mean, there are so many things that do contribute to success, and I think each of us have our own interpretations of what has enabled us to get as far as we did, right? So, I mean, what is it for you?
I mean, personally, for me, you guys also know I came from a background where I was slightly privileged, but not so much entitled. I had a stronger starting ground, but yet I still had to find my own successes. I was strong, but not strong enough to be able to do many things on my own, right? So I think what kind of made sense to me was that life is like a game, right? Life is like a game. And there's many levels to it. And at every level that we enter, somehow we always feel that that's the furthest we will ever go. Or maybe at some point of our lives, most of us feel that that's the furthest we'll ever go. Or maybe they have not been led to believe that actually they can go further. So there's this like mental ceiling that, which like what Reuben says also, but do they know what it takes? Because undoubtedly or somehow they were unconsciously unaware that there's this sort of mental ceiling that they've placed upon themselves. Be it maybe someone told them that they could not go further. Maybe they see their peers and like, oh, that's the most that my friends have gone already. And anything beyond that seems unrealistic or unattainable to them. But whoever placed the mental ceiling upon them or upon yourself, but themselves as well, right? So
it's always yourself.
It's always yourself.
No one else can put a ceiling on you, except for yourself, true, right?
Yeah. So I felt that one of the key things that really pushed me through each time I had a major breakthrough in my success, right, was I found a way to become even more self-aware than I already was, constantly have developed the ability to assess myself, my strengths, my weaknesses, and found a way to break through that ceiling each time. But that all came from the belief that I am never going to be this little. Like, I am going to be more, and I can be more. I just need to find out how.
Yeah, but the how is always, I guess, the question mark, right, for most people.
And that's why people come to us also.
Yeah, fair. And I think talking about all this number one thing, right, like I just had like a thought. Getting number one was a journey, right? And I guess the question at the beginning was how, right, did the journey happen for us? When I'm thinking about how to stay number one or even go further than that and dominate, right, is probably nothing that we have just said. Because it's probably what you have done to get to where you are. Most of it would no longer be, in play when you get to the next level and the next level and whatnot, right? So I think for us now is that, okay, all these things have worked to this point, right? But how do we continue to stay number one and cement that, into history, right? It's going to be a total different playbook, a total different ball game. Maybe 1, 2, 5 years later, when we sit here and talk about this again, maybe the points that we bring up, I think it wouldn't be the same. I mean, the essence to some extent, but I don't think it will be exactly what we're saying today, because we can't get there by doing the same thing, right? That's insanity, expecting a different outcome from doing the same things, right? And I think ultimately for us, that's what we want, right? And that's why when this topic came up, right, not really a fan, because I don't even think that you can say that we're number one, because one in the company, the company is big, fair, right? It's like when you play football, you are the champion of like League 3 or League 2. That's not really like number one, right? You're number one of like whatever small tier league that you are a part of, but one is one, which is like Championship English Premier League number one, right? Undisputed in the country, at least in the country. But I think I'm also sort of heartened that I know that that's where we want to go, right? And that's what the environment brings up. How many people can say that, okay, when you look left and right, you know that we are walking the same path, the same direction, with the same goals? I think it's so difficult to find. And at times, we are all human. Do you wake up every single day saying that, okay, I want to get there? I don't think so. Some days you feel good, some days you feel sort of shit, right? But when you have people around you, it's always easier. I feel like the right people, the wrong people make it harder, right? But with the right people, it's always easier. So, if you're watching this, go and find your right people. Yeah. Whoever they are, however you can. I don't know how you're going to do it, right? But I think that's one of the most important.
I think like the only reason we are here is also because of the people. I was saying environment, I think the one thing is the people.
Yep.
Right. I think if either of us were here, but we didn't have each other and the rest, right? They know who they are. I would say with a 99 point, maybe even 100% certainty that we would have never made it anywhere near this far.
Yeah, agree.
We are like each other's Sun Wukong and Tang Sang Chang.
I think like the synergy we had or have working together, sometimes I also don't quite believe it, right? I mean, like when you look back, it's almost too much of like a fairy tale, like a movie script that wrote itself, right? A bunch of friends who met in school, not quite sure exactly what we were doing back then. Somehow we stumbled and fell, figured our way, did that maybe like 5 or 10 times, maybe even more. And then eventually, here we are now, right? I think it's kind of crazy if you think about it, right? And I think like what Rup said, in a couple of years' time, whatever that we'll be doing then, right, it's probably very, very different from what we are doing now. And whatever is required to get there is a whole other ball game. But if you guys had, I'm just thinking, right, if you guys had to think about what kind of tweaks, right, we will need for the future, or what other things we might have to do differently, right? What comes to mind for you guys?
Okay, I think for me, first and foremost, I feel like right now, there are still people that can step up more. I mean, including us, right, of course, right? But I think that, you know the phrase, tough times create strong.
Yeah.
Strong men create, easy times then create weak men, right? It's a cycle. So I feel like we went through the tough times at the beginning, the few of us, right? And then right now, that's why we are the ones driving the team organization forward. And it's been that for years, right? But I think what I would really want to see in the next couple of years, right, is that the new people, or newer people at least, take the lead in some of the things to move the team forward, right, in their own way and whatnot. Because then it will prove to us, right, that we have created a real environment of growth, where maybe you didn't have to go through the shit show that we had to go through when we were younger, right? I mean, you all know what I'm talking about. But you are still at a similar level to what we are, because we experienced that. But of course, I hope that doesn't happen to them, right? But we build an environment that they get to learn all the lessons, get all the experience, grow to that level where they can step up and then lead the organization forward in that way, right? As a new person, right? Because if we don't do that, then it will always be the OG people doing the same. Yeah, it's always us, blah, 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 blah. But then we will never get to, all the way to the top. Right, with just these few people leading the charge, right? We need more people, at the front, right, doing all these things. But they didn't experience what we did, so it's also in some sense unfair to expect that they go through what we go through and they know what we know, because they don't. I think that's what is our next level. If we can build everybody else, newer people, to something similar
in terms of experience, in terms of maybe mentality, emotional resilience, whatever it is, similar to us, then I think we can cement up this and dominate. Easy. And if it's replicable, you just keep doing the same thing, right? Then there will never be tough men who build tough times, then just whatever.
Well, what about you, Leo? Actually, I completely echo what Reuben said. But I think as an extension of what you mentioned, right, we should think about how to create new versions or new variations of tough times for us as the pioneers. Because you can pour out, you cannot pour out of an empty cup, right? And right now, I think we have reached that level where our cups are rather full. And it only makes sense that instead of finding new cups, instead of just only finding new cups to pour into, we should also find a way to make sure that our own cups are expanding in size at a rate that's faster than the entire organization is growing. Because the success of the organization largely depends on how big the few of us and the size of our cups are. So if we can do that, I think it also puts as a very strong role model or a strong exemplary thing to follow. So people are continuously inspired by us to further improve ourselves. So they don't see ourselves as, okay, you guys are already at the top, and then hence you stop, right? But they see us as we are already ahead, but we find new and better ways to stay ahead. So we are trying to create a beast of a company, right? But now we're also trying to figure out how do we tame this beast while maintaining its ferocity as well.
Okay, so then for those people watching at home, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do they create these tough times for themselves? Because from what I'm hearing, it seems like that was the route that led us down this path, or maybe open the doors for us, right? So how does one do that, in a sense, if you're watching?
The reality is that a real tough time, it's always going to be like way more effective than
I can't fabricate
simulated one, right? I mean, if you genuinely feel like your life is on the line, you will naturally be way more incentivized to do something about it compared to if you knew that it was just a simulation.
Yeah, but then is there a way to do that then?
Well, I mean, if you ask me, to bring it to the same level, I think it's really unlikely. But can you replicate something that is decently close? I think it's not impossible. Right, but it takes time also. Right? Let's say for myself, how I trained myself mentally was to basically force myself to just do difficult things every day, things I didn't like. Right, most people. I mean, every day we are faced with hundreds, if not thousands, of choices. Right, what time get out of bed? Right, what do I eat for lunch? Right, should I do this or that first? Should I exercise today? Or if I do, should I go for a jog? Should I go for a swim? Should I do weights? I mean, the lists of choices we make every day, it's pretty much endless, right? But no matter what, we always realize that some choices are always easier to defer to. And some choices we typically prefer to stay away from. If you think about it, right, I wouldn't say all the time, but most of the time, the things that we try to stay away from are oftentimes the things that are better for us, right? Growing up as children, I mean, I'm not sure about you guys, I hated vegetables. Even now, I wouldn't say I'm a fan of them.
Why, bro?
Right? But typically speaking, these are the things that are better for us. You know what's good for us? Ice cream, soda, the typical shit, right? These are things which are easy to defer to, but are they good for us? I think everybody knows the answer to that, right? So every day we are faced with all of these choices where we typically pick the ones that are easier on us, but not necessarily actually more beneficial to us. And I think knowing that is, I think coming to terms with this and acknowledging this is the first step to, like what Reuben was asking, how do we create this either environment or way of thinking to really force yourself into growth, right? So once you come into this acknowledgement, then next is about, okay, do I want to do anything about it? Because knowing it is one thing, right? Anyone can come to this realization. But making the next step, which I think is a far harder one, to actually do something about it, I think that's a whole other story altogether. Now, suppose you are willing to take the step to do something about it. Then the question is, are you interested in change or are you actually committed? Because someone who is interested in change, they could, for example, if I wanted to lose weight, right, I could say that, hey, I'm going to try to go on a calorie cut tomorrow and I'm going to start exercising tomorrow. I'll wake up early, I'll wake up, when you see those inspirational TikToks or, reels on social media, people waking up early at like 5, 6 a.m., they go out, for a run or whatever regime they have, right? How many people can actually keep that up? A lot of people, right, New Year's resolutions, right? You can go and do this for a week or two, right? But being able to do it is just a sign of interest. Being able to do it day after day, week after week, even after the results have already shown themselves there. That is what separates, I think, mediocrity from actual serious intentional growth, right? So, putting yourself in a position to make all these difficult choices every day for a long period of time until it becomes part of your life. You don't even question it. It's just habit. I think that's one of the key ingredients and steps to creating the kind of growth. And if you are with people every day that think the same way, right? Everyone left, right, and exactly. Everyone left, right, and thinks the same way. You pull yourselves together. It's impossible, right? It's inevitable that you get that crazy growth or whatever, right, that you're looking for.
So what I like to do is actually a prelude to whatever you mentioned. But how do you condition yourself to love that grind, to love that difficulty in life in order to succeed? So it's like funny thing you mentioned about vegetables, right? So I don't know, not medical advice, but I love carrots since young. I thought it was like damn delicious. Maybe that's the reason why I don't fall sick very often. But somehow just to me, it's like if you don't eat carrots, what is wrong with you? There must be something wrong with your taste buds to not appreciate carrots. But that to me has been a way that I've been conditioning myself in many of the things that I do as well. Like love the hard things. Learn to love the hard things. Because in life, if you don't love the hard things, which will ultimately bring the biggest value and success, right? Then you're not going to enjoy it's not going to taste sweet when you actually achieve it also. The whole process of going through all the hardship, being in the trench with your fellow brothers and sisters, that was what really made all that success even sweeter. But for that to happen, I didn't look at difficulty as, oh shit, why am I doing this to myself? I could be enjoying in bed playing my PlayStation or something. But I trained myself to love the grind. Every day, every night, waking up, even though most of my schedule is packed with work, right? But I enjoyed every minute, every second of it because I knew that I was giving value to somebody else. I was improving myself at the same time. And ultimately, I was creating a bigger impact for the whole society. And that to me was essential for what was needed to be where we are today as well.
So ironically, like you see as a carrot, I see as a carrot. Right, but I guess when it's both ways, right? I think you need a carrot and a stick in your life, right? I agree with choose the tough decisions, condition yourself, see, love the tough things that you do, right? But I think one more thing, if you add it, right, plus the other two, right, I think you will have the perfect equation formula, right? Is that if you just leave yourself with no other option out, like just burn the boats backwards, right? Because then we are playing with the fact that yes, it is a carrot, forward is a carrot, but back is a stick. So there's no way to go backwards. Yeah, you can only go forward, right? Of course, you're incentivized by loving it, but also there's no way back, right? When you can do that is because when you look at champions, right, people who get to the top of their respective fields, better athletes, in education or in business or whatever, right? They are just a group of people, right, who can keep doing difficult things, but yet succeeding time and again, more and more, harder and harder things, but success again and again and again, right? But of course, they built from somewhere. So it's important for everyone listening to this, right, to start from somewhere. It doesn't have to be big, right? But you need to do something difficult, burn your other options, and then force yourself to succeed. Once you do that one time, you think, actually, I can do it.
But I'm going to play the devil's advocate there, right? In theory, I agree, it makes sense, right? You burn the boats, you have no choice but to succeed. On the flip side, though, in reality, that is actually much harder to do than it is on paper, right? When you have so many things on the line. And for us, when we started out in our journey, the truth was that we didn't really have much to lose. I wouldn't say we had nothing on the line, but we had fairly little on the line, right? Such where even if we failed, there's not much we are really giving up on anyway. Right? But if right now we are trying to apply this to someone who does have things on the line, right? They are already, they have 2 kids or kid waiting for them. They have a mortgage to pay off, right? They have a stable job, giving them a comfortable income for their family every month. And we are saying that, hey, you give that up, take a risk, go and do something again.
Yeah, but it's about belief in yourself, ma. How you get to number one without, belief in yourself? I mean, okay, I'm not a gambling man, right? But if you ask me to take a bet, I will never bet against us. Or even to be more distinct, I will never bet against myself. right? And you need that, at least somewhat that confidence, right, to do anything in life, right? I'm sure, okay, asking you to take a massive risk with no way back, yeah, that sort of is very risky lah. But no way you get to number one without any of these risks at some point, or maybe, you know, prevalent in the journey, right? So I understand. That's why number one is only got one. It's one and everybody else, right? So the person who took the risk, trusts himself, believed in his cause and himself, made it happen, and he got there, he achieved all the way to the top. That's why he's there. That's why he achieved.
At the end of the day, if you want to be in that one position where no one else is at, you also have to be willing to do things that no one else is willing to do.
And not everybody is destined or cut out to be number one or champion or be in a number one company, team, you know, business, whatever it is. And that's fine, you know, because if everybody is number one, then no one is one. So
fair.
Ultimately, but you know, if you're watching this and you feel that you are someone that can be that person, but you don't know how, or you're stuck, or you're lost, then that is a point of consideration that you should, you know, think about, right? And also know that there are ways out, right? There is a way forward, right? But if you, conversely, if you listen to this, to whatever we've just talked about for the last 45 minutes, right? And you feel that, okay, you know, sounds great, but yeah, race is not for me. Then that's fine as well. Don't have to go be someone that you're not, right? Ultimately, it's what you value in life. But I know all of us here, we don't like losing, right? We like to be first. And that's why, you know, we're here saying all these things.
But the one who takes the risk gets the reward, man.
Yeah, fortune favors the brave. Yeah, right. And I think for us, we have learned the lesson time and again. I can't say we didn't take any risk, man. I can't say that we didn't burn any boats, man.
For sure.
We burned the way back countless of times.
In fact, I think, that's one of the next topics we'll be speaking on, right?
What exactly were these boats that we burned?
Yeah.
And looking back, were these boats, do we regret burning all these boats?
Yeah.
Or do we wish we set a bigger fire?
Looking forward to chat with you guys again on that when the time comes.
Yeah, for sure.
But since we're on this note, right, and we talk about like how we help each other grow and everything, I think I just want to kind of take this opportunity to really thank and appreciate the both of you also. I do share this with a lot of my friends and my clients that I would not be where I am if I didn't have the two of you also. And you two are like my, what's a nice polarizing,
Lights in shining armor.
nice, you know. Be good.
Well, I mean that.
We are like
For sure.
the Liu Bei Guan Yi. What's the last one? San Fei.
I mean, this is sometimes a lonely journey, you know.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have done this without you guys also.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately why we're here, man. I mean, no one will dispute that fact.
Yeah.
Right. I think none of us will have said that we could have done it alone. Right. I think that's why the message is that if you're out there, then find your people, find your environment, find your people, build your environment.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's the first step. Wherever is that you might want to go.
As Jet Li calls it, find your tribe.
They call it that.
I don't know, bro. I saw some shit.
Okay, nice try. Good try. So yeah, I guess that's all for this, episode of Against the Grain. Right. Catch you guys
Next you guys on